I keep seeing these photos of these women in red dresses with white bonnets on popping up all over Facebook. Is it a holiday? I don't know about. Maybe people aren't at work today because what is this? Someone says it's a picture of Jedi Padawans from Stargate Episode 2: The Wrath of Khan. May the Fourth be with you as well. Unfortunately, Darth Cylon kills them when he goes Sith. All right, Mr. Parson, that was an excellent response. I get it. It's the Handmaid's Tale. Ha 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 ha. There were riots yesterday. People were fighting with cops. And it's funny when they start attacking cops and then the cops just push them back and they're like, they're brutalizing us. It's okay, dude. When, jackboot SWAT cops come out in armor and start arresting people who are marching, which I've seen. Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. People can march. They can peaceably assemble and do that First Amendment stuff. When cops pull up and it's one guy and people start getting up in his face and screaming at him, and all he does is say, back up over and over again. Yo, police brutality you do not have. But I want to give a shout out to The Handmaid's Tale, because it's the only book that millennial activists have read, the only books are Harry Potter and The Handmaid's Tale. But I'm also not even convinced. I think Seamus said this on Timcast IRL, that they were both made into movies or TV shows. So they probably didn't actually read the books. They just watched the show, which is why they're posting the pictures of the women in the red dresses, the bonnets on. But someone super chat us a really funny joke, because the only thing they have is Handmaid's Tale and Harry Potter. I was like, that's it. We just combined the two and we make the hand Harry's Potter tale. And then someone super chatted, you're a handmaid Harry. That was a good one. That was really, you're a handmaid Harry. That's a good one. Just combine the only two books apparently that these activists can reference. Look, they want me to come out and defend violent riots. Ain't gonna happen. I'll defend protests. People want to go out and protest and march through the streets 100%. Please do it. Please. I encourage it. Have your voices be heard. Peaceful protests are very effective, and people should hear what you have to say because we should debate these ideas. I respect that. But when y'all are surrounding cop cars and it's just a couple cops who are in plain, they're not in armor. They're just patrol officers, and they're telling you to back up, and then you swarm them, throw things at them, and then attack them. Dude, come on. And this is what's basically happening. Y'all want me to come out and scream about the apocalypse because Roe v. Wade may be overturned in 2 months. It's not going to happen. I am not pro-abortion. No, I'm pro-choice. Sorry, guys. You moved too far left. I don't agree with you. You know what I agree with? Tulsi Gabbard, because she said safe, legal, and rare. I mean, that's the way. That is the meme. The memification of what the idea is behind what traditional liberals used to uphold. The right wanted to ban abortion. The left was like, dude, can we get some exemptions? Okay, first trimester, medical emergencies, rape and incest. And now the left is like, yo, we played the clip yesterday with Ralph Northam. Vox.com published this, where they're talking about even to the point of dilation. The woman is literally giving birth and you could kill the baby. And I'm like, I'm not okay with that. So no, I'm not going to have your back on this one. There's no political party that upholds the values I'm referring to. And I got whatever, man. Now the Republicans and conservatives are like, we'll take it. As long as you're not supporting whatever that is, we'll take it. Because who am I supposed to vote for? I will put it this way for all of you. If you give me the choice between no abortions, none, and the left saying that you can snip the spinal column of a baby at 9 months as it's being delivered, I'm going to go with you can't do it. I'm going to go with, you can't do it. Sorry. You're not giving me a choice. There's no choice for me. When you look at the polls on this one, it's basically that most Americans want restrictions. I think most Americans probably are in a similar position to where I'm at. In the first trimester, let's leave it between the doctor and the woman. I know there may be bad outcomes in that regard, but I fear getting the government involved in some of these issues, which the right may perceive as intentional killing of the baby, when it may actually be the intentional saving of the mother's life. We had someone super chat us that a friend of theirs got pregnant and the baby became cancerous. at 6 months and they didn't know what to do. And the doctor said, it will spread, it'll kill you both. And so they had to terminate the life of the baby. I look at that and I'm like, that was, I guess you'd argue, the intentional ending of the pregnancy and ending of the baby's life. But I suppose the real intention was to save the mother. I think we have to make sure that is outlined and codified, because medical procedures for life-saving procedures need to be, in my opinion, protected. But I can get those concessions from Republicans. The left is just like, no restrictions. Let me show you this, and then we'll talk about these riots. So we have Tim Urban on Twitter, writer and infant. He posted this meme, and he says a little breakdown of the situation. The current situation right now is a federal protection. All women can have abortion. Under Roe v. Wade, states' rights depend on trimester. First trimester, states cannot prohibit. Second trimester, states can require reasonable health regulations. Third trimester, states can prohibit abortions except for cases when they were necessary to save the life or health of the mother. While states can't revoke these rights, they can have created barriers to access. Now, under this current understanding, there have been instances where women have argued their mental health was at risk. And so they've justified third trimester abortions. That is, a fully viable baby with like limbs, eyes, face, brain, heart, everything that could survive outside of the womb. What's going to happen potentially after this ruling? No federal protections. Some women can have abortion, some women can't. Women in states where abortion is legal, nothing will change. Women in states where abortion is illegal, who have the means to travel to other states for the procedure, they will all be able to get access to abortions. Women in states where abortion is illegal who do not have the means to travel to other states for a procedure will not be able to get an abortion. For the overwhelming majority of people who want to get an abortion, they live in blue states, nothing will change. For the people who live in red states who want to get abortions, that's going to be an issue for them. Perhaps they will have to move to a blue state. I'm not necessarily a fan of some of the, I'm not a fan outright of some of the laws that we've already seen, the outright guaranteed restrictions period. I think Oklahoma was like, the only exception was the health of the mother. But the problem with this, there is no such thing as eliminating loopholes. No such thing. Not on the table. A federal ban. No women can have an abortion. Only 13% of Americans want abortions to be illegal in all cases. And this is very unlikely to happen, but according to a 2022 Wall Street Journal poll, nearly half of Americans support a ban after a certain stage. Would you favor or oppose a law to ban abortions after 6 weeks, with exceptions for the health of the mother, after 15 weeks? Look at this. Most people would favor a ban after 6 weeks. Now, we've heard from these activists that women don't even know they're pregnant by 6 weeks. Most people are pro-choice like me, not like these fringe lunatic leftists. So this is the problem we have. The laws they are passing, like in Colorado, are unrestrained, unrestricted. At 9 months, you can cut the spinal cord of a baby. Watch the videos from Vox. I played a million times. I'm not going to play it again. Where the woman for the radio station is asking the governor at the time, Northam, about a woman is currently in labor giving birth. And he actually says, well, in the case of these third trimester abortions, they're typically in the case of non-viability or deformity. So I'll tell you what would happen. The baby will be delivered, would be made comfortable, and then the mother, brought to a room, and the mother and the doctor would have a discussion. Wait, what? Sounds like he was saying the baby's alive and born, but deformed, so kill it. Sorry, you're not going to get me on board with that. If this is what the Democrats are defending, I will not support them. I, as somebody who has always been in the pro-choice but with restrictions camp, would prefer no abortions at all to the execution of a 9-month-old or a baby who's at 9 months, not 9 months old, but literally about to be born, fully viable. Sorry, you're not going to get me to agree with that. You will not. And so now what's happened is that meme from Elon Musk. Oh, shout out Elon Musk. He says accurate, by the way. The meme where he shows the left going far left, putting the moderates, the center-left people from '08 in the right-wing side now is accurate, because I am closer to a conservative who wants no abortion than I am to the left that wants to abort babies at 9 months. Now, hold on there a minute. You may be saying, Tim, but I am but a humble progressive who doesn't agree with it either. We want choice. I don't want an outright ban. I don't want to vote for it. I think I think it goes too far. I think we need to be very careful about how we're dealing with medical issues, dealing with the civil rights of two individuals in one body. But I lean towards restrictions, and I am not a fan of second trimester and beyond abortion. First trimester, I get. I look at a lot of these bills about, 16-week ban, and the left is screaming about it, and I'm like, you're not giving me an argument as to why that's a bad thing. In Europe, they get less time. In Europe, I think it's like 12 weeks. We're talking about what, 3 months? 12 weeks? 16, we're talking about 4 months, 16 weeks? Well, not quite, but like just around that long. You're not giving me, the left is, the only argument they're giving me is they want to be able to end the life of a baby. Here we go. Pro-abortion activists smashed Department of Homeland Security vehicles in LA. At least one officer injured. The LAPD said that activists were throwing rocks and bottles at law enforcement, and at least one officer was injured, as they do. Now, I want to point out, okay, look at, the pink pussy hats. I mean, I'm 15 years old. I'm afraid. A lot of young activists taking charge of the downtown LA pro-choice protest. I'm sorry. Y'all are not convincing me. I do not understand. Literally don't. You're going to have to argue for me. Why would a 15-year-old need to get an abortion? I mean that literally. Is the issue cultural? I'm not saying there's no answer. It's not a rhetorical question. It's a literal question. Answer this, okay? Are you arguing that 15-year-olds will have sex, will get pregnant, and then they're going to have underage pregnancies? I'm not a fan of 15-year-olds having babies because there's a concern about the support for the child. There's a concern about the health of the mother. I mean, at a young age, okay? So what is the option? I suppose the option is contraception. Cultural practices like maybe people shouldn't be sleeping around and kids should be given proper education and cultural stuff. So I can recognize all that. Then you have the issue of where it comes down. If we are teaching kids to be responsible, to use condoms, and you argue, but they won't. Yeah, okay, I get it. They won't. How is then the answer you're giving us to terminate the baby outright? The issue, I suppose, is the left does not think that the fetus is living, is alive. But I look at things logically. We look at the simple mathematical equation of when does life begin and its conception. So I don't see why it makes sense that, well, this kid screwed up, let's kill the baby. I don't like that idea. I personally fall into the camp of medical exceptions, medical exemptions. I don't like the idea of abortion as contraception. But I also don't like the idea of having to fill out like requisition forms and like permitting forms from the government. Nope, dude. If you come to me and you're like, we should have more permits for the government, I'm going to be like, I don't know about that. If you try to buy a gun, not fun. Now, I get it. You're dealing with the life of a child and the life of a mother. And this is where I don't know if there's an answer. I don't have a good moral solution to this because you're dealing with the life rights of two beings. Now, I suppose the problem is I've heard great arguments from the right. The right saying that if the mother is having her rights curtailed for 9 months, she gets to live. But the baby loses its life. If we had the option between the least amount of harm, you'd be talking about saying, have the baby. And it's like, that's a good point. It's a good point, but there's a lot of difficulties here. If a woman is forced to, let's say a woman is raped and she did not choose, she was not irresponsible. I don't see why she should be forced by someone else or by the state to give up her body to another life form. Libertarians argue it's called the right to evict. I don't like the idea of a woman getting pregnant through irresponsibility and then being like, well, I don't want it. And I'm like, dude, you've made choices. You have to live with those choices, right? If you choose to drive drunk and you hit somebody, that's your fault. If you choose to engage in reproductive acts and then get pregnant, yeah, I'm sorry that men don't go through the same thing. The man should be responsible and are legally required to support you. But what I don't like is the idea of a woman getting raped. And then having to prove to the government it was a rape? Man, I think ultimately that was the idea with Roe v. Wade, is the right to privacy and not having to go to the government and being like, here's the evidence, here's the charges, here's me going to court and verifying all this stuff simply because, a woman was forced to carry. I can put it simply. If you're not giving me the option of something reasonable to vote for, I won't vote for you. If you're coming out and protesting saying we can't have Roe v. Wade overturned, I'm like, I do like the right to privacy. Even, you can look at statements from many Supreme Court justices who said the right to privacy is precedent. I can certainly agree with the right to privacy. I suppose then the argument is, should not it be codified by Congress? And I'm like, yes. Okay, so then it's not an issue for the Supreme Court. Yo, the left is not giving me any real arguments here. They're attacking cops. They're screaming in the streets. They're screaming about the apocalypse. They're calling for violence. And I'm just like, you've lost me completely. I don't know what you want from me. Portland, property damage caused during marches, pro-abortion activists. You've lost me. I'm sitting here in what I would describe as what used to be the left. But the left is making demands that I cannot agree with. I know in the beginning, that feller made that Sith joke, but it reminds me of Star Wars when Padme is talking to Anakin and she's like, you're going down a path I can't follow. I'm like, that's what I'm trying to say to y'all. So here I am. Okay, you've got the spectrum of left to right, like Elon Musk's meme, and I'm center left. I was actually very far left when I was younger. I was more anarcho and all that stuff. And then I moved to the more like the liberal space, and I'm like, And then they're saying things like, yo, I get it. I remember listening to Ron Paul. Ron Paul was an OBGYN, right? But he mentioned he's a doctor and that he can tell you life begins at conception. And I was like, I hear that. I've heard the arguments about if you punch a woman who's pregnant, in some states you can get charged with, double homicide for killing the baby too. And I've heard that. And I've heard all the arguments about what constitutes a living being. The left hasn't given me a logical argument. They say a fetus is just in the first trimester, it's just a clump of cells. And I'm like, yeah. But then I heard the argument that a single cell is a life. And I'm like, so just because it doesn't live the way you think it should be living doesn't mean it's not life. We talk about vegans saying like a chicken has rights to life and things like that, and animals shouldn't suffer. And I'm like, okay, do you eat eggs? Vegans don't. They don't eat anything that comes from the animal because it contributes to the suffering of the animal. And I'm like, well, why not an egg though? I mean, chickens lay the eggs. They lay the eggs and they walk away from them. Dude, do you know how chickens work? Let's be real. Chickens will lay their eggs and often abandon them. They don't brood. So what do? You just let it go to waste, or do you eat it? No, vegans don't eat it. Okay. So if the egg is a product of an animal and you don't want to cause it, you don't want to eat it for whatever reason, I'm like, isn't there some kind of argument that just because it isn't expressing itself in humanly ways, you shouldn't be destroying it or harming it? So look, I look at it kind of this way. There's no suffering in the first trimester. Ending the life, I think, is bad. But the issue I'm faced with is the suffering of the mother. If there is the issue of rape and incest, I don't think I think the argument about rape and incest is wrong for the most part. And it's typically because I hear this from a lot of conservatives saying there should be an exception. We'll accept exceptions for rape and incest. And I'm like, if you believe life begins at conception and you can't fault the innocent baby, then why would you fault the innocent baby if the mother was raped or it was incest? I'm like, it's still not the fault of the baby. My issue here is if a woman is forced to have some other life attached to her, I don't think the state can mandate that she provide her body and blood to that provide her body and blood. However, I also don't think after the second or third trimester, maybe some reasonable restrictions into the second trimester, it's murky, but I don't think you can have like a viable fetus and just be like, no, I've decided to terminate it because it was rape. It's like there's limited suffering early on with terminating a first trimester baby versus the suffering of the mother. I can respect that argument because we're talking about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I can't respect abortion as contraception for lifestyle choices and irresponsibility, but I also am concerned about the government intervening and then requiring women to prove that it was rape or incest or something. And it's just like, right to privacy, I think it does matter. I'm not going to pretend there's an easy moral answer, and I'm not going to pretend I have I have the correct moral position on this one. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. So I don't have a very strong stance one way or the other, except for I think overt bans are wrong. I agree with Seamus Coughlin and Matt Walsh, conservatives, that we should never just terminate a pregnancy with the intention to kill the baby. That I get. The intention should always be something else, like saving the life of the mother, or respecting life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in the instance of forced pregnancy, like rape. Then there's an issue of privacy the individual has from the government. Well, there's an interesting argument. But then there is, should we try to save the baby at all costs if we have to? And I think it's an interesting point. As Matt Walsh put it, there should never be a reason to simply say, I want to kill that baby. I can agree with that. I can't agree with outright bans for a variety of reasons. We have to have a conversation. And I can't agree with the left's completely unrestricted kill the baby at 9 months pregnancy. That's insane. So I'll tell you where I'm at. I'm not going to defend anybody. I'm not going to defend the left. I'm not going to line up behind them. I'm certainly not going to vote for Democrats on this issue. And then if I have no reasonable answer for this, maybe I'll disagree with me. Maybe there are moderates who agree with me. Maybe not. I don't know. But I'll tell you this. Democrats ain't getting my vote. And if the issue is a -1 and a +1, giving me a 0 position where the Republicans are +1, they want the ban, and Democrats are -1, they want no ban, no restrictions, that leaves me with 0. In which case, it's a moot point. I can't vote on either way. So you know what's going to happen? When the Republicans come out and oppose critical race theory, well, I oppose that. When they want school choice, I'm for that. When they oppose war, I oppose war. Okay, Democrats, you lose. Go riot and go nuts. Or maybe present a real argument. I don't think there's going to be one. Maybe just a civil war because these people are calling for violence. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.